Hi everyone, and welcome to this tutorial of creating your very own single GPU pass-through for Mac. Okay, so the prerequisites of this setup are that you have IOMMU enabled, NX mode enabled, and SVM enabled in your BIOS if you're using AMD, or if you're using Intel, just enable VTD and VTX. Okay, so with that out of the way, what we need to do is we need to follow some steps in the Arch Wiki and some steps for this guide, so we'll be jumping between them and just verifying that everything is there. So Arch Wiki, IOMMU, PCIe pass-through via OVMF, perfect. This is the guide we were looking for. So the first step is editing your kernel parameters. Now, if you're using grub, then I'll just link this guide in the description. Go here, follow this guide, and then come back. Because I use system deboot, and I would be showing you the steps for that. So for system deboot, you just need to create another entry. I won't be creating another one. I'll just show you the one which I have. So that's located at sudo bat boot /loader/entries, and then arch vfio.conf. This is the entry that I created for my VFIO instance of Arch. Now the only thing different from a normal entry here is that when you're initializing the Linux init_ramfs, you add these parameters. Now these ones are mandatory, and this is because my GPU kept entering into a D3 state where it could not be powered on a VM, so I just disabled D3 state entirely. Let's see the next step. So after this, you would want to reboot into this instance, or if you're using grub, remake the config and then boot. And then the next step is just checking if it worked. Now before that, I want you to run one command, and that is interesting, and that is lspci, and then pass it grep, and then after grep just specify your GPU's name. Mine is 570, and then here just take a note of these addresses. You will need them later. So 29:00.0 and 29:00.1. You will need to note down these addresses somewhere. And then let's check our IOMMU groups and see if they're working well. So sudo and then this command and run it. Now look for your GPU's groups. They need to be present there. So here we go. It's group 13 and it is present, so it means that we've done it correctly. Then we need to run this bash script. I'm on fish, so I'll have to switch to bash, otherwise it just acts up. And then here again we want to look for our graphics card, which can be seen here. Awesome. And then I'm switching back to fish. So this is also done. The next step is configuring Libvirt. But before we get to configuring Libvirt, we get back to our Arch Wiki. So we've done all of this stuff, but what we need to do is we need to edit our vfio.conf. So sudo bat/etc/libvirt /modprobe.d vfio.conf. Now here we have our VFIO config, and you need to write your IDs here of your GPU separated by a comma. And then you need to add these two options, which are disabling the idle D3 state for GPU and disabling VGA output once we're using a VM, so that there's no output generated by the GPU to the host whatsoever. And then now we need to modify the mknit cpio conf. So sudo bat/etc/mkinit cpio.conf. And then here in modules, you need to have these VFIO modules loaded, and in hooks, you need to make sure that modconf is also loaded. Now, once you've ensured that, you will need to regenerate your initramfs. Now, the way you do that is sudo is actually by mkinit cpio-p linux. I won't run this command since mine is already generated and I do not wish to mess with that. Now we go back to configuring our instance of Libvirt. Now for Libvirt, you'll have to change some stuff. So the next step is modifying our libvirt d.conf. So I'll just copy the path here and nvim this. So you need to change the Unix socket group to libvirt, and you need to change the permissions to 0770. Other than that, in the logging area, you need to add some lines which are mentioned here. And you need to run these commands so that you are added to the libvirt group. So once that is done, you need to mod another file, and that is qmu.conf. Now here, you would have to search for user equals to, okay, there we go. And then here you'll need to specify your username and your group. So once that's all done, you'll have to restart libvirt daemon. Okay, so this is where we part ways with this guide and we do more Mac specific stuff. So now we would move to more Mac specific stuff. So the first thing that I need you to do is go to this Github OSX-KVM, and we would be using this to create our virtual machine for Mac. You want to git clone this repo, cd into it, and run the MacOS downloader. Once the base DMG has been downloaded, you want to convert that DMG and create your hard drive. Now make sure that you use at least 55 gigabytes because anything below that Mac won't install on. So let me switch to my Mac directory, so Mac 2 KVM. And then here what you need to do is run this command, and it would generate your XML file so that you would be able to create a domain on Virt Manager. Run this command to connect it to Virt Manager, and the next steps that we would be doing would be Virt Manager specific. So I'll open Virt Manager, and this is macOS the macOS VM. And let's go to the info. So we have some stuff written here, basic stuff, and we're using display, spice, etc. We are not going to pass anything through yet. And we'll power on this virtual machine. So now it asks us to choose. We'll choose macOS base system. And it takes a little bit loading these Hackintosh VMs. Okay, so right now the mouse pointer would look horrible and it would be very laggy since we aren't passing anything through. Look how choppy it is. So what you need to do is go to disk utility. Do not go to reinstall Mac. First go to disk utility. Delete this drive, just erase it and label it whatever you want. I'll just call it Catalina. Oops, not Catalina, Catalina. And change it to APFS. And click on erase. And it would be done pretty soon. Erase process complete. Click on done. Then we want to close out of this and click on reinstall macOS. Then we would want to click continue. And it would fetch the license agreement. There we go. Now you'd want to agree to it, even though we're breaking it the very second we're agreeing. Then choose your Catalina disk and click install. Now at this point, it's just about following through Apple's installation stuff. So I would just cut to a part where this OS has been installed. Alright, so you can see here on the virtual machine, it says about a minute remaining. So it's about to boot into the finalizing setup part of the virtual machine. And from there, once the installer is finished, we would add all of the additions required for our GPU pass-through. So while it is doing its thing, what we can do is we can set up our hooks. Now, hooks are just scripts that we can run when we are running when a VM is just starting or it is just stopping. So just a second, if I could hop out of full screen, it would be really helpful. But it seems I can't seem to find the button. There we go. So for that, I'll just run this here. And we'll need to go to this guide again. Now here are the scripts that we need. So we need to go to this URL and you need to download or clone this repo and run the install.sh script. We need to get our GPU's ROM now. So there are two ways of doing it. One is generating it by dumping your GPU's specific ROM or downloading it from the internet. It's definitely easier getting it from the internet, so we'll just do that. So go here, it's preparing ROM, yep, here. And we'll need to go to download the ROM. So mine is AMD. Then my card vendor is a gigabyte. So gigabyte RX 570. So 570 here. I do not have the 8 gig model. I have the 4 gig model, so I'm looking for that. And here we go. So get the latest version. These aren't sorted according to date. Just make sure to get the latest one. So I have mine already downloaded. You just need to download this ROM file. It would be a .rom file and you need to place it at this location, which is just a second. It says where the location is. Yep, var lib libvirt vbios. This would be a directory and place it there. You might need to create this directory, but just place it there. Chmod it to 660 and then chown it to your user and user group. For NVIDIA users, you need to do something extra, and that is patching the ROM. So use a hex editor and look for character values with video, and remove everything above that with U. So just do it like that. Okay, so and with NVIDIA, you also need to add this part to your XML, your VMXML, which we'll get to in a little bit. But first, let's just do, okay, so it has booted again, so we need to go to our Catalina disk and let it do its thing. There we go. So continue, shift and immediately to the right, and there we go, done. Later, remind me tomorrow. Okay, so we have the VM done, but we just need to do the pass-through stuff now. So you just want to turn your virtual machine off now. So shut down, shut down. Now your VM is perfectly working, but we just need to do the pass-through stuff. Okay, so for the pass-through, the first step that you need to do is remove display spice and video VGA. So remove this and remove this. This is useless. Now you want to go to attach hardware, PCIe host device. Make this bigger, damn it. There we go. So we need to add the first instance of my GPU, and we need to add the second instance of my GPU. Yes. Now I also want it to have audio, so I'll just pass over my audio controller. Finish. Yes. And then I'd want to also pass my keyboard, which is this one, CBGK Firefly. I'll add this, and I'll parse my mouse. So my main gaming mouse does not work with my Mac VM due to some reason, so I have this Logitech one hooked up specifically for this. So I'll pass that too. Yes. And the last thing that I would like to pass is my Wi-Fi adapter. So that's this one, TP-Link 802.11ac Wi-Fi adapter. And yes, so we have all of this set up. Now we would want to sudo edit the QEMU file that we had edited earlier. So go here. So for now, what I would do is I would just change macOS to macOS. Right and quit, clear. Go back here. And now you should be ready for the pass-through. The moment you click on this, your screen would go black and you would start to boot into macOS. So one last step that you would have to do before turning your Mac VM on is adding the specific ROM file. I forgot this and it was not working, and I was trying all sorts of troubleshooting. So I'll just have my ROM file, and I copy it from the other Mac VM that already works. So you need to go to the XML, and I'll just copy this line, but basically you just need to specify the path to your ROM. Since we're using a custom ROM for the GPU, so we need to add it just below the source on both instances. So first here and then here, apply, And I'll just add the other hardware which I had removed to troubleshoot, and I'll just pass my Logitech mouse. Perfect. Yes. And I'll run this now. So I'm just going to turn off the recording, and the next clip you would see is from my phone. Okay, so here, as you can see, I have powered on the virtual machine. The moment I power it on, the signal to my GPU gets cut off from the host, and hence my displays turn blank. But the moment the VM assumes control, the displays turn on again, and it is being used by the virtual machine now. So, as you can see, the Hackintosh VM related stuff is now displaying, and it would be done pretty soon. So we're expecting to see the Apple logo on my right monitor, and it shows up now. And as you can see, my VM has now powered on. I'm just swapping the mouse for the Logitech one because that one works with Mac, but my main mouse does not. So I have entered my password, and I'd be in soon. Okay, so here is macOS. As you can see, it is pretty smooth. Everything works really well. Actually, surprisingly well, to my surprise. So you might be wondering how's the performance. Well, the video you're watching has been edited on this very VM. Now let's see what happens when I shut it down. macOS has a rather inelegant approach to shutting down, where there's no GUI prompt which shows that it's shutting down. So you'd be just staring at your wallpapers, waiting for your host operating system to assume control. And the moment it assumes control, you would be greeted by your login window. And there we go.